Hey there everybody, just cracking on with the exterior slash interior communal areas spatial, i.e. the roof, the fire escape balconies and the stairwell and the floor. So I'm just getting this is heavy warm grey. Now you might be saying, isn't that pink? Well, it's kind of a pink, but when they say grey in these terms, what they mean is if you're talking about grey, what you mean is a neutral colour. So you make grey by neutralising. So in terms of pigment, if you use a mixture of red, blue and yellow, ideally a warm and a cold version of each, but if not, you can use Prussian blue, alizarin crimson and lemon yellow, and they will neutralise one another. And this neutralising process creates grey. So then the reason this is called grey is because it's a chromatically neutral colour which has then been tinted ever so slightly in the direction of red, and hence it's a warm grey rather than a shit pink. And pardon my language, but that's kind of one of the ways it's referred to. Now you might notice that I haven't actually put enough down to cover the whole building. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to load my brush with water, and I'm just going to continue moving the pigment about, because what I want is to start getting a bit of tonal variety, as I don't get quite perfect coverage. And I don't want perfect coverage. What I want is to create a tiling effect, and the way I create the tiling effect is I want less pigment on the surfaces in the middle than runs into the gaps, creating the hex look. And I'll continue just running water in and thinning it out now. Also, I don't want to waste paint, and I will also be tinting this afterwards, so it comes up as an almost it's quite a Mediterranean look actually. I'll just give you a quick, so it will come up looking something like this, where it's sort of an orangey pinky mix, and this will be my sort of exterior slash communal areas. And that is it's what I've chose to go for. I don't know whether it's the best choice. At the moment, the other thing I've discovered, and the reason, or part of the reason for doing the sort of shit pink underlay, is hope you don't find this. I don't know what the other term. It's the only term of phrase I actually know for this colour, which is like correct. So apologies if you find it offensive. I don't mean to be offensive. And it creates a nice kind of tonal range. I wasn't sure what colour to do these basically, and I didn't want to go like full on in your face red, which was kind of, I know I've said this is Japanese sectorial, but I don't know, it wasn't sitting right with me. And I could have done it, I could have done this exterior roof just grey. So again, make sure you're getting up to all your edges. Now what you'll start to notice is I just keep on moving the pigment, and right now I need it to move through the door to the top of the stairwell, and this is where we start to find, I'm just going to flip this around so you can see, but there's a lot of reaching in involved. You're having to change the angle you're looking at, move the building around, just to try and get the brush into all the corners. It's actually easier with the next stage in some respects to be getting the brush into all the corners. But if you don't do this, if you lay down a wash straight on the white, well, at least with the paint that I'm using, it doesn't sit right. So partly this is also just to mat up the, it's not satin finish, it's just or satin if I speak English. It's just the if you have very wet, moisture ridden paint, it bubbles and sits on the surface rather than creating even tone. And what I want is fairly even toned. The other reason for doing this is variegated colour is very important for generating a realistic looking tonal quality at the end. Without the kind of variegated colour that you get by doing this kind of a process, you just end up with something that looks flat, bland and unrealistic, and that's very much not what I'm going for. I don't want to overpaint, because to be quite frank, I've got a funny feeling I could spend hundreds of hours just painting these buildings. And again, now you might see that sort of paint marks starting to appear, and I'm still going to continue adding moisture, extending the pigment. In some respects I want it to do some slightly funny things, and it will start to bubble and form funny, and I'm just going to get down into these fire escapes. I just want all of these communal areas as such to be sort of finished in the same way. Now I haven't etched the floors through the interior of the building, but I don't know, I don't feel that's a problem. And you'll get to see how it all ends up looking in a bit. I'm totally out of shot now, aren't I? Yep. So yeah, balconies, just getting into the floors. Again, just keep moving pieces. If you see hairs, try and fish them out with your brush, get them off your brush. Keep them away from what you're doing. And this way, I'm trying to make it as neat as possible, because what I don't want to do is paint over the inside of the wall. So again, sorry about this. Just turning it around so that I can actually get at it. I can't get at it from behind my camera because my camera is in the corner. I have a teeny weeny little workspace, and it's trying to make the most. 'Cause again, I mean, I don't know what you think of this, but this is also a project partly to show you can achieve some pretty amazing things without like a whole workshop full of tools, you know. I mean, I'm using a very limited colour palette range and a very limited tool set, you know. I'm just using some pretty regular craft knife, Stanley / X-Acto blades, and steel edges, and sort of your just basic paints and inks and water. I'm not using any expensive paint mediums. I'm not using any specialist carving tools of any nature. You know, I think, I don't know, I have contemplated that if I was actually doing this, that if people were suddenly really interested in having these buildings, I mean, I could sit down and illustrate it, but it'd take me a week, by the way. If anybody does want me to do this, so I'd have to like not be making videos for a week, or get really far ahead of myself. Which is what, well, I'm hoping to be able to do that, but it keeps taking time. If I could get far ahead of myself and I could take a week off, people are really interested, leave your comments if you are. I could sit down and illustrate or do these, and I could actually get them laser cut so that all the pieces are laser cut, and one, it would save a massive cutting. It just costs money, you know, and I don't really have any money to spend on this right now. So I'm just getting all this blocked in as quickly as I can. And I'll just show you this whole process and blathering onto you really, just so you can once again get a sense of time. I mean, this is like, what, 10-minute task. Also to show you that I'm continuously I chucked some pigment down and I'm just extending it and extending it and extending it. And once I've covered all of the balconies and the roof, I will no longer kind of extend this pigment out. I will let it dry and settle. But I have found that where you lay really heavy quantities of paint, actually the effect isn't as good. And considering that it's already had the spray paint, so it's already been getting layered up. The other thing is just being careful. Trust your brushes. Also trust yourself a little bit. It gets much harder in a minute when we start doing a stairwell. Which is here. Now we start getting to see where the true nuisance lies. Okay, I'm not going to show you the entirety of this, but just to give you the general inference, this is where you start having to reach in through windows and you're trying to just clip the tops of all the stairs. Sorry if I'm breathing a bit heavily. Concentrating too hard. Like these first couple. I've also always been working from the top down. These first couple though, these are the easy ones. And see, now I'm having to reach in through gaps, so now you're having to be careful with your paintbrush all the time. It's kind of, you need to be able to reach down so you can press into the tip of your brush in order to actually get paint transferal. The hardest part in the whole model are these steps just down here. They're an absolute nightmare to reach, and it's just the reach that's difficult. I'm trying to get it so you can see. But in order to reach these, I have to reach down from the top in order to get right into the corners nearest the wall. And so I do that first with all of them if I possibly can. And then to finish those steps off, you have to twist it around and reach in from the back edges so that you can get the downward push in order to actually be able to apply pigment to the surface. I have been finding when I'm doing this, a lot of white back every time I've done this. Unfortunately, if you don't have rubbish fingers like me, it wipes really easily off the spray paint. Just noticed another bit where I've so yeah, you have to do some touching up afterwards. So I'm just going to crack on and I'm going to get all this paint laid up, finished, and I'll get back with you in a minute. One last thing is this, I do actually have a little brush which I just snapped off the shaft, just so I can reach in through gaps and get into like places which I might not be able to get into with a long brush. Also I have a fine detail brush for reaching down right into sort of little corners and stuff, which I'm not going to be able to cut in with the big flat brush. So you do need these three brushes in order to be able to get into all the corners and get everything done right. So yeah, just a quick interlude. Catch you in a moment. Okay, so I've finished the stairwell and I've got everything based in now. Should be able to see there's quite a lot of brush mark there, but you know what? not really fast. So I've kind of got my, well, I'm just giving my brush a quick wash. Again, not particularly fussed about the pink, and what I have is I have a mix down here which has actually dried out a bit overnight, so I am going to load my brush with water again. But it's rather too thick now. It's dried out quite a lot overnight. It's about 20 parts water, 1 part ink, and it's a chestnut ink and sort of dregs of the pink. And I am just chucking that down on top of the pink. When you're doing this, the only thing you need to be really careful of is don't like just slap it about, because it'll spray and it'll spray at the walls and then it's irritating. When you do make little errors, like I accidentally left a big chunk of paint, smeared it on one of the walls. In fact, the balcony at the top of the stairs, which is just out of sight here, on one of the other ones, and I tried to sand it back, and I sanded the paint clear off, because apparently even spray paint, although it forms a skin and bonds to the surface, it comes off terribly easily. So yeah, I'm just going to lay down this whole bit so you can just sort of see roughly what I'm doing. Like I say, it doesn't need to be too dense. In fact, I've been finding that the ones that I've put sort of less on, they've come out looking better in my opinion. It's got more of a sort of variegated tone, and so it has much more of a sort of a tidy finish. In my opinion, I think this comes out looking maybe slightly Mediterranean, but that kind of suits me because it means that these buildings overall look like a bit Western, a bit Eastern, a bit Middle Eastern, and in so being, they'll actually sit well with any of the armies. So it kind of provides me with, I mean, apart from if you're in space, or maybe on Ariadne. Unless, I don't know, if you're in the borderlands of Ariadne, like the Deep South, maybe you go for a little bit of a Mexican theme with some of your US Ariadne stuff. Then they kind of fit in. But Ariadne to one side, I think that's going to be more sort of fortifications anyway. I think they actually fit quite nicely with any kind of the kind of settings for the forces using, I know originally I think I was saying this is kind of, I think, JSA. Well, I thought about doing these red, you see, which would have been a lot more sort of Japanesey, or black, which also would have been a lot more Japanesey. I even thought about doing them kind of brown or grey, but ultimately I've gone for this, and then I'll just get this roof blocked in. And I'll just show you, I've got another one just over here which is already done. I'll show you the best one, obviously. Well, actually I'll show you one which I've done too dark, and I'll show you one which I think is done best. Now I am choosing to run this technique all the way through as if the floor, sort of like each step almost, has got one big tile that's been made to sit on top as a bridge, and I'm kind of assuming that these are like, it's future tech, it's in the future, and I mean we're already at the point where, to be honest with you, the only reason the construction industry isn't pretty much dominated by 3D printing is because of union lobbies, which isn't a bad thing, keeps people employed and all that. But on the same note, the technology's out there already, so I am figuring that these are probably 3D printed buildings with some stuff set in them. Also, I did the hexes because, well, it's very Infinity, isn't it? It seems to be the sort of the iconic texture of Infinity, really. So yeah, so just quickly just blocking in, and it looks very shiny and wet at the moment, but if I just throw it up to one side, you can see that it goes like this, and I think that looks pretty realistic. That's the good one, by the way. I'm not so keen on this one. I gave it a little bit of a light sanding just to knock it back a bit. It came up too orange, and none of the pink's really shining through, and I kind of like that variegatedness that you get with the pink. So I'm just going to keep on doing this. It needs to be run all through the stairwells, and then that'll be that. So I'll catch you in a moment. So I'm just going to try and keep this in shot for you, but this is the end result. You end up with a... Okay, there are bits where I missed it, and this is what I mean. This is a wall where I botched and I had to paint it in, but then it just looks like, you know, it's been painted in at a later date. It looks like the place is lived in. As you can see, this is all smooth, so it doesn't have quite the same variegated effect, but again, I just wanted that look so that it looks different. You might want to paint the leading edges of your stairs. I've chosen not to, like as I said, because it's as if it's some kind of printed material where it's sunk in, or they've printed a different colour on the top. So yeah, I hope it's been some use to you. There's the stairwell and the boudoir, the fire escape even. So I hope it's all been used to you. Enjoy your modelling, have good and take care. Bye bye.